Meet PitchDB, the ultimate platform for speakers looking to make their mark on podcasts, conferences, and media outlets. PitchDB provides access to over 3 million platforms, ensuring you find the perfect avenue for your message. With AI integrations, your bios and pitches are tailored uniquely to each opportunity, giving you the edge you need. Join now at pitchdb.com.
Welcome to Your Brand Amplified, the podcast where we interview marketers, publicists, and brands to learn their stories, what makes them tick, and tips and tricks that make a difference. I am so thrilled today to have Leslie Crumley here, Structured Success. Leslie, I'm really excited to share your story and to talk about finance. That's a big, scary topic for so many entrepreneurs.
Yeah, isn't that interesting that it's scary, but that's why you're in business. So there is that contrast of wanting to make money, being scared of it, but really focusing on your passion and your purpose. Yeah. So I definitely get that. And that's why I call myself really a financial Sherpa, because I learned the hard way that ROI, return on your investment, is not always the best journey, especially when you're a passionate entrepreneur. So it's kind of how I came into it, making some hard mistakes, and I teach strategies and tools and techniques so you don't have to make some of those horrible mistakes that I made on your journey.
Fantastic. Well, can you go back to the beginning and talk to us about your journey into the world of finance, what interested you about money and finance, and then what was your pivot point? That's a lot of questions, but we have time.
Okay. Well, you know, I think a couple major things happened to me in life. I was 13 when my father passed away. And because there was a lack of planning there, you know, it had some impact, not only emotionally, but financially. And then fast forward a number of years, I married my husband, and his parents did not save for retirement. And they lived with us for 14 years. And I thought, no. I do not want this to be me. I do not want to put that burden of supporting somebody financially on my kids. So what do I need to do? And I knew that I learned faster when I had accountability. So I transferred out of the travel industry. I love to travel. One of the reasons I like to manage my money is because I want to know how and when I can travel and how much time I have and how much money I have to do it. But I did go into financial services. I became a financial advisor. I was an assistant first. Then I became a financial advisor. Then I went into management, into compliance, administration, operations. Really did not like that part of the business. Oh, really awful. But I have some great skills from that. Then I went into banking as a personal banker with affluent clients and learned about lending. And I also learned one key strategy that most of those clients had in common, and that was they held real estate. They'd had it in their families, or they were real estate investors. So I went on that journey to become a real estate investor, and I did do that. Sadly, I did that at the top of the market. In 2007 and 2008, lost almost everything, including like wanting to jump off my balcony. You know, it was really, really, really bad. But in that journey, I had discovered as I clawed my way out of that journey, which is why I have a mindful money management practice, is because I had to really dig deep and call upon forgiveness and gratitude and all sorts of meditative processes to be able to navigate in a day at that point. And so when I went back to look, I'm like, what did I do wrong? What could I have done better? And even though I was using some of the tools, I did not know how to take my real estate business, and uncommingle that with my personal finances. Mm-hmm. And I did not know how to do reporting on that effectively so that when I had those conversations with my husband, it went well rather than, you know, lots and lots of fights because we were losing so much money. And so now when I backed out of that, dug myself out, thank goodness, like I come to the table with a lot of skills and expertise, but I've simplified basic financial tools like balance sheet and P&Ls, right? We try to demystify the fear out of those tools because really they're talking tools and they're data points. So we have the boulder of guilt and shame, we kind of knock those off and we go, let's create a baseline. Where are you at? And then put systems and processes in place with checks and balances so that you know where you're at on your journey. So you don't lie to yourself like I did for 2 years. I would never have gotten in the streets that I did if I'd have the numbers and had been able to look at it from an emotional standpoint. You know, it's like the market was moving. Sometimes it's not your fault. You just get caught in a current that you can't get out of, and you have to swim to the side. You can't swim upstream in those currents. So that's kind of where I come from, helping people know how to protect what they have as they're growing and managing their wealth. So I call it a wealth building journey. And again, financial Sherpa to help you up that mountain.
Yes. Wow. So many things that I think a lot of people are probably struggling with who are listening. Number one is saving for retirement, whether it's us, our parents. You know that my parents live in Thailand. They could live here in Kansas, where we grew up, but the quality of life they have there is so much higher because the expenses are so much lower. And so these are harsh realities that we're seeing people face is where do you live? How can you maximize your money? Especially we're both, in California, where we see, okay, somebody moves out of their house, they've lived in their entire life and built up all this equity. They're not going to have anywhere else near here that they can live. So there's that topic. There is, of course, real estate and owning land, but then also knowing when to get in the market and how to do it effectively.
Yeah.
Simplifying balance sheets, because I'm asking for a hand raise here. How many of us have been in that position where we're afraid to email somebody who's asking us for money or call them back or say, you know what, this is the reality of where I'm at right now. Let's figure out the plan forward. Yeah. So many important topics. So your journey, you went from travel into investment, banking, helping advise people, and now you're out independently.
Yes.
So what prompted you to switch from being in the world of corporate into, you know what, I have this way that I want to help teach people that I might not get to if I were at a bank or another business?
Right. Well, I had one of those pivotal days, and I think especially women go, like, it was Valentine's Day. I'm blanking on the year, seeing my daughter at a performance when she was in preschool. Ooh. And then I got pulled into my supervisor's office, and he said, well, really disappointed that you took time off during market hours. And I'm like going, but I have time. I've gotten excellent reviews. What is this? This is not okay. I'm always straddling my home and my work, and this is not a great environment. No, I do not accept this, and I don't accept this for other women. That's such a great moment, because up until then I thought, oh, I'm too old to transfer jobs. My husband had been laid off for 1.5 years after we bought our new home, and his parents moved in. I mean, I had a lot of stress going on. So I really felt like I was handcuffed to that job until that moment. That was the greatest gift that man gave me. And so that was my moment of going, no, I do not accept being incarcerated for a job just to survive. I want to thrive. I want to travel. How can I do that? And every day I woke up, how can I? How can I? How can I? And that's what drives me. And the work I do is like, how can you, no matter where you're starting from, no matter how bad you feel and what dark hole you're in, get help. And there is a way. Do you have to work at it? Yes. That's kind of a challenge we face in this world. Oh, it's fast and easy. Well, you know what? We can make it faster and easier, but is it fast? Is it easy? It depends on how committed you are, because it's easy. It becomes very easy to manage your time and your money if you have a higher purpose and a higher goal. It just shakes away all of the unimportant things and allows you to really focus on what matters most. So,
wow. And did you quit right away? Did you start?
Oh, I wanted to. I wanted to. Oh my goodness. My husband brought me flowers at work. He knew I was so upset, but I knew that I had the benefits. So I couldn't just, quit. And I know so many people I talk to, they get upset because everybody has their stories, right? But they'll quit and then they figure it out. Or they're going to career coaches and nobody talks about, well, how much money are you making now? What is the hard dollars? What are the soft dollars? How do you quantify that so that you know what kind of job that you can get? How do you prepare financially for that transition and that gap? And that's what cash flow strategy will do for you. It puts it all on the table. And you play the game strategically. And my friends, this is a game. Make no mistake about it. And most people don't know the rules because the rules are a little complex and they're a little scary. But if you jump in and go, okay, I'm going to learn one part of this game and then I'll get better. So if you want to quit your job, don't do it. Don't get that emotional. Step back, get some help, do a cash flow strategy, and then start figuring out what you need to do to make that next step, and not just get another job, but what are your bigger goals? How can you get a job that allows you to get the information you need to move forward? Maybe it's not your perfect job, like being a financial advisor. I did not enjoy that process because it's really a sales job when I was doing it, right? In a very male-dominated environment, I was with a company that had a class action lawsuit against women. So that can tell you a little bit about that environment. So you want to just prepare and plan before you take any action. That's what I say. And look at your numbers. You got to look at your numbers, especially if you want to open a business, right? And separate those numbers, separate them. So anyway.
Yeah. So everything that you created and the way that you planned for yourself to be able to extricate yourself from corporate.
Yes.
Is that kind of the foundation of your business now?
Yes, that and more. It is about taking what are your goals and let's create where you're at now so that you understand. I like to say, like, the financial tools are like shoes. You and I could have the same size feet, right? We go to the store. These shoes fit me great. Those shoes don't fit you because they're uncomfortable or something. So that's a misconception I think people have is, oh, I'm doing it wrong. I don't know. I'm not good with money. No, it's cognitively. How are you responding to data? And then how are you responding to the language? And then how are you responding to the stories that you were brought up with? Because there's all of that going on as you're trying to find solutions. And that's why budgets to me do not work, because there's so much literacy that goes into creating a budget that it's not just about how much money I have coming in and how much money I have going out and how do I balance that out. No, it's so much bigger than that. And because it is complex, those skills really aren't taught. And that's what I teach. It's through that process of finding out how much money you have, but what kind of money. Right. We all want passive income, but what does that mean? How does that look on a spreadsheet? And I use that word spreadsheet. Yes, I used it. Don't be afraid. It's just a data point to collect data points, piece of paper, whatever word you have to say in you, not to be triggered, but it's just really a way to collect information.
Yeah. Would you say, because as you're talking, I'm thinking about the way that I budget, quote, budget, versus the way that my boyfriend does. And, he's very much more, what's the number? Okay, I'm going to stay below this. And for me, it's much better when I go, I've paid this, this, and this, and I'm going to allocate this much to buying something for the house that will make me feel a little bit better every day because I'll get to see it and it brings some beauty, or it helps me keep the house a little more organized, or whatever that is. So I do little rewards along the way. And for him, that would be wasting money because it's not all going towards bills or savings.
Right. Oh, mindset, right? I bet you if we look, there's two different households of the money stories that you all have. And there's no one right way. It's what makes you feel good. But it's one of the reasons why I have categories and subcategories. And if you've not done accounting, that might not mean anything to you. But like if you're thinking about buckets, it's like having 10 buckets. I use 12 buckets when we're talking about creating those. And I call them cash flow strategies because budget feels so restrictive to me. It's like every time I use the word budget, I will go spend way too much money. But when I go cash flow strategy, because that is a trigger word.
I love that.
Well, strategy. That means I'm being smart. That means I'm using opportunity cost, which is what is the highest and best use of my resources. And then I feel okay about making some choices that are hard, but I have to choose my hard, right? Do I want to go out to dinner and a concert that's going to cost me $500 by the time I'm done? Or do I want to put that money into a savings account so that I can go to travel to Europe? For me, every time it's going to be traveling to Europe, but I have the pieces in place so I can see that visually so I don't forget. And that's why I use those tools, because if you don't use the tools, then you forget and you feel like, oh, I can go to the concert all my friends went, or all my friends went out to eat and spent $200. I mean, it is super easy to drop $200 for a friend. Boom. Like, no, I don't do that. I have strategies around still going out and doing fun things. I'm the queen of finding great things to do in Los Angeles for very low budget. But it is all in that mindset. But I do have a fun money budget. So I have it allocated. So I am going out to eat. I am going having a budget for those fun things, but it is very controlled. And I'm always measuring the spending plan that I've created against how much I've spent. And I have all these tools to help me get there. But it's really knowing what my boundaries are for myself. I can always go out of them, but it's just having a baseline to go, oh, and especially if you're in debt, this is really important to do because, you just don't see the hidden cost of interest and you think, oh, that's only $10. I'm already in debt anyway. But no, that $10 can be, hundreds over time, and you don't want to do that. So it's really understanding what your patterns are and creating systems and processes around where your weaknesses are so that you can build up your strengths. And if you're committed to bigger goals, it's much easier to do that. Much easier.
Wow. Well, and that was one of the questions I was going to ask, because when people are looking at becoming entrepreneurs or starting a new business, if they're multiple time entrepreneur, you said, about not commingling funds. And I know that is a mistake. I've made it's a mistake I still make sometimes. Like, oh, there's not enough money coming in here. I'll just cover it and then I'll have to pay myself back later. But I'm sure I'm not the only person. I know a lot of entrepreneurs do this. So how do you create that delineation so that you can really think of, because our businesses are us, right?
Yes.
So how do we separate them? And what are some techniques that you recommend? And is this something you see a lot?
I see so much of this. And actually, I'm glad you asked that because I actually have a boot camp that I'm doing in April just to address this because it is so complex. And that's where setting your boundaries and having those visual tools comes into play. And I mean, it has this domino impact of getting your taxes done, of bookkeeping. When you commingle, it just costs you so much time and in the long run money because you don't understand, because you're not taking the time to build a foundation. But when you step back and invest the time, which feels like, oh my God, like, why aren't I seeing results? No, it is really sketching out your boundaries so that when that expense comes in, oh, that's a business expense because I went to dinner with so-and-so and I know that's a business meal versus, oh, I went out to dinner and this is a meal that I can't write off. And then the game becomes, how can you legitimately write off almost everything you're doing? And that's the tax strategy game, one that I really love to play, but it's a game. And again, if you don't have the right tools and you're deferring your decisions and your literacy, then it becomes very challenging to do that. So what I suggest is one, that's why I'm doing the boot camp so that we figure out where you're at and then slowly take away those commingled things and then understand what accounts that you have in place and why you're doing that and why you think it's okay, because we have to get to the root cause to make the changes. Because if we don't, you're going to say, oh, that's just one transaction. It's cool. Well, no, that one move you did is probably about 5 or 6 or 7 bookkeeping moves that's now added about 30 minutes to your process. You do that 3 or 4 times. Oh my gosh, you were talking if you have an entity and you do that. Well, now you have, you're crossing boundaries with your entity and you just don't want to do that. So it's really understanding how that all flows together. And it's hard. It's very hard. And you'll go to seminars, set up an entity. Well, yeah, that's great. But there's paperwork that goes along with that. And it costs a lot of money to have other people do it. So, yeah.
Wow.
You can see it.
Yes, I know. All the passionate you are. Well, what are some of the other common mistakes that you see people make as they are moving into their entrepreneurship journey?
Biggest mistake is not having systems and processes for their personal expenses and really understand what their minimum lifestyle is costing. And then not having a plan of investing in their business. I didn't when I started. So I'm not pointing fingers. I'm just saying I've done this myself and not knowing how low I can go. Because at some point, like I did with the real estate, I was losing so much money, but it was just going. And I had no stop loss in securities. They call it a stop loss. So I apply some securities terminology to the process. What's your stop loss? You're starting a business. That's fantastic. Okay. How much money are you putting into it? And then how much can you lose before you start gaining? And how long are you going to do that? Really be clear and be clear with your spouse, because I cannot tell you how many conversations I have had. I have to say it's mostly with women. Their husbands will come home one day and say, you know what? We've lost the business. And this has been about a year that I've been going out. Like I've seen it over and over. And I'm not saying women don't do it too. I'm just saying I have more conversations with women.
Wow.
But it's so it's very hard mentally and emotionally unless you have those tools and accountability. That's why, like in the work I do, when we're working at the higher level, I apply what I do with my spouse now is we have monthly meetings, we're having one later today. And that really forces you to, like, this is my measurables for this month. Did I hit them? If I didn't, good. Why not? And so you have clear transparency over the finances, and you have a process and a timeline so that you don't get behind. And so you can't say, who was I talking to? I can't even remember somebody getting a divorce found out that their spouse did not pay taxes for 2 years.
No.
They had no clue. Trust but verify. And that's what all of these systems allow you to do is trust and verify and share the weight, because it is a heavy weight to be the one carrying the finances, and the other one's, oh no, I don't want to look at that. And that's kind of how my husband would tend to do. He's like, I just make money, you deal with it. But there's a lot of heavy decisions to make, and it's not fair to the one who's in charge to do that. And that's why these tools are so important, and the meetings and the family meetings and discussions become so important. And then you also can change your family's relationship to that wealth building process, because there's so much negative energy around wealth, right?
Right.
And so we want to define it. What is it to you, and how can you do it with love in your heart and be a great person and not have to, do bad things like, some wealthy people we know.
No names, but yes.
No names.
Well, and that's something else that you mentioned was mindset. And you have to take the financial side, but you also have to take the internal constructs. Yeah. And what do you think about money, and how does it resonate? And what blocks do you have? And
yes,
what money stories are you telling yourself? And so does that work start at the beginning, and then that helps you set up the systems for each person? Because as you mentioned, each person has their own constructs, their own ideas of what wealth might look like or what success might look like.
Absolutely. And it's one of the reasons why I have a mindful money management practice. And the good news is for any of my students is my husband was in advertising. And he knows communication design. So all of my handouts are designed by somebody who hates this stuff. So he has simplified it and made it really pretty. Awesome. So it's easier to digest. He's always telling me the benefit. So I always want to go into the details. I know that can be hard. So the benefit of doing some of the work is that you don't know what you don't know. And that's really the first part of this boot camp that I'm offering is it allows you to reveal blind spots and discover what you don't know. Because a lot of people come to the table thinking they know more than they do. Yeah. And so they're stuck. And a lot of people come to the table thinking they know less. And then they're really inspired to do the work because they go, well, I can do this. This is like, no, this doesn't have anything to do with math. I can do this on a Google Sheet. I'm not great at math by hand either. So that's why I use Google Sheets because,
Yeah. Wow. What would you say are some of the biggest aha moments that you've seen, and how has that helped not just transform people's personal finances, but also how they can move through their businesses?
Some aha moments. A lot of my clients say like I'm their activity angel is one comment that I got recently, because it's just the process of having somebody there to pull you through when you get stuck or you don't want to do it and, it gets a little bit hard and you forget your vision. I'm all about putting, whatever it is you're trying to do. Like I will have pictures of the trip I want to take on my wall. So every time I don't want to do something that usually has to do, I'm sorry to say, with marketing, I put that on the wall and go, no, I want to do this. And I want to make global impact through financial literacy. I know this part's hard, but the results what I'm looking for. So yeah. I don't know if that answered the question. I got off on it.
No, but I love your excitement. But I think the important thing is that, because you have people come to you for aligning personal finances, but it's usually about personal and professional. I mean, you can't, even though you don't commingle the finances, you can't have one without the other.
And that's part of the work that I do is through that process, we figure out what type of streams of income you have. And a lot of people really don't understand how to, like their business, even if it's not in an entity of some sort, right, is a different stream of income. It's if you think of people, it's its own person. So what is this entity person's goal? What are we trying to get from it personally? And when you separate it as a different entity, then it becomes easier to uncommingle. But that's the hardest part for people. And then especially if they have real estate income, they don't understand, how to separate some of those accounts and only transferring money to their personal accounts after they've got all their expenses paid and the reserves and all of those, forecasting tools you need to use so that you don't lose your property during COVID, for example. If you don't have good cash flow strategies, especially a lot of property owners are cash asset rich, but cash flow poor. And so it's how do you utilize what you have to meet your needs? But you got to know what your needs are, how much does your lifestyle cost? And here is a test for your audience, right? I'm going to give you a quick test. Okay, now, and you can set a timer on your phone and just in the next 4 minutes, not right now, but after the call, 4 minutes, can you find out how much you've paid for groceries this month in 4 minutes or less? If you cannot, you probably have a system or a platform that could be working better for you.
Mm.
And that's a real canary in the coal mine type test. Yeah.
Interesting. Luckily, I do know that number. So I'm like, yay, one thing.
Well, and the next is, how are you in alignment with what you set aside annually that you can spend for that, right?
Yeah.
So,
and then I go, oh, I don't know.
Yeah.
So, I think this is something that so many people are thinking about with interest rates and the cost of living still increasing, even though the economy is doing well. But then the other aspect is when you are starting a business, it can be really difficult to get credit for your business and business financing. And you have to use your personal credit a lot of times. And so do you also make recommendations for people on things that you've seen as good tools to increase the ability to get business credit, or little hacks? Like I know some people will say, have one credit card that you put everything on that gets you miles or that gets you XYZ that you can, or, a rebate that you can then give back to the company or whatever.
I love those credit card points so much. But that's why I always say, do your cash flow strategy first, because if you're carrying any debt, those points are meaningless. They cost you money. Don't do it. And what I do is kind of like a liaison. So we put all the pieces on the table, and then we go to the experts who are really good at business credit to then get feedback. So I suggest having a board of directors, but I also suggest never using your personal assets unless you have a plan in place and you have those limits set for yourself. It's what I did. One of the reasons we had problems is the bank turned us down. I bought 8 properties with my home equity line of credit, my primary home. That was insane. That was so ignorant. I can't even tell you. So you don't even understand what you're doing and the risk because, you're an entrepreneur. This is a great idea. It is going to work. I have all the confidence in the world, except something happens like COVID or some AI, takes over your industry or whatever. So you have to really make sure you know what you're risking and have a plan. If it works out, great. If it doesn't work out, okay, what's my plan? And go in it because it is a business. It's a business. And that's really hard for heart-centered entrepreneurs, especially I have the same problem myself, right? The same problem because I don't look at this as a traditional business. This is my passion and my life's work. And I have such a desire to share the tools because they're not taught so that you don't have to suffer. And it's, anyway, I could go on and on. But anyway, that makes it very hard sometimes to do business and to make a profit because I just want to serve, but I have to be mindful that this is my business and I have things that I want to achieve with giving and lifestyle that are impacted by if I charge for my services. And it's also, I think, understanding your worth as an entrepreneur because you do love what you do, right? You do. Most entrepreneurs will do it for free because they love it and they forget to value their services and their expertise because it's easy. I hear people say that all the time. Easy for you, but not for me. Like marketing, are you kidding me? No, it hurts my head. I want to stab myself with a fork. So that's why I would come to somebody like you who's an expert in that. How much time, money, and just stress are you going to save me by coming to you as opposed to trying to figure it out all on my own? Is it there? Yes. Can I figure? No, it's taken you years to learn those little tweaks that allow you to get faster results. You know how to read the data. You know where to go, just like I know how to read numbers.
Exactly.
You can look at a spreadsheet and not see what I see. I can read them like tea leaves, but I've been doing it for years, right?
Years.
So it's get help too, and have a board of directors and listen to your board of directors. You know, they don't know everything about you, but sometimes, boy, if I only listened to a few people. Only listen.
Well, and this is a formal board of directors, or this is just a group of trusted mentors, friends, people that you know you can go to and will give you the real deal.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Like you, if somebody comes to you and works with you, you are going to tell them, you know, that budget on, and I'm just making this up, you tell me, on Facebook of $10 a month is not going to get you the results that you need. Somebody lied to you there, or, you know, I don't know how that works, but that's not going to work. So it helps you help people get real with expectations is just what I do. And those are hard conversations to have somebody. It's like, generally there's no fast money. There's no, it just doesn't work for most people. Most people, not always.
So what does it look like for you now? You said you mentioned a boot camp. Are you working in group coaching? You're working one-on-one, a little bit of everything?
I start out with the group coaching so that we can make sure that we're on the same page because I have to like you, just like you have to like me. It's not that type of corporate environment where you have to work with everybody. So I like to work with motivated people who really want to grow their literacy and their skill and do good work. And we start with that boot camp. And then sometimes we find people need a little bit more support. And then I'm also finding a lot of people are inheriting real estate right now. And one of the challenges, we've got that baby boom going, right? So there's a lot of those baby boomers transitioning. And so they have not trained their heirs. So people inherit all this money and all this property, really, not money. Money's easier to deal with, but it's property. So they have inherited debt along with an asset they don't know how to manage because nobody talked to them about it. And then there's it's just awful. And so that's some of the families, and that's a customized program that I work with families who are struggling with that inherited property issue. How do we untangle all of that? And then if you are somebody who has that property and will be passing it along, please come to me now. We can get it all straightened out so you have a succession plan. So it's simple and easy. So that's kind of what I'm working on. But I did want to mention that on the first Friday of each month, and this is done purposefully to get you in the process of looking at your numbers and your finances after the first of the month. So it's the first Friday of the month, and it's free for the first 2 hours by invitation only. But if you're listening to this, you are invited. And it is a place to come and work on your finances and community. It's almost like homeroom for your finances. We're not doing a lot of teaching or training. Sometimes I do. Most of the time I don't. It's just come in and get whatever difficult thing you're working on done. And then maybe you can ask a question. Well, how could I do this faster, easier? I can answer that for you. So you get familiar, but have a safe place to come and do that work and know that you are not alone.
Wow.
All of this craziness.
Yes, that is very generous. And it is a great way for people to get to know you, get to know how you work, and also be able to get some of their workflows put into place a little bit better.
Yes.
And so is that on your website under your events?
No, it is not. It is a hidden link. It is a hidden link. So maybe you'll have it on your page.
Yes, we'll have that in the show notes. Absolutely.
Okay,
Yeah. So you'll have to look at the show notes if you're watching this or listening to this episode to get that information. I'll probably, maybe I'll send it out in my newsletter too after the episode comes out. So Leslie, this has been so great. It's clear that you are so passionate about it. You make numbers and this work that many of us don't want to do and dread. You make it seem like it's fun. And so you make it approachable. So thank you for bringing that to our show today, because we need more of that in the world. People who are going to make the hard things seem approachable and fun, and like you can create a system. So
you can. It's a vision board, my friends. It's a vision board. Like, what do you want? How do we create the vision with your numbers? It's peak by numbers. You know, it's very fun.
And do you have a favorite quote or mantra that you'd like to leave us with?
I have so many. If you looked at my Instagram, you'll see a whole bunch of quotes. Not lately, but in the past, I've done a lot of quotes, but I have 3 quotes.
Okay.
3. Okay. One is, what can't be measured can't be improved. What cannot be measured cannot be improved. That's our data, right? And that was said by Peter Drucker. And why that's important is he was an economist who won over the Nobel Prize and wrote over 40 books on economics. And so you don't have to believe me, but believe him, right?
Yeah.
So that's why you want to have these measurements in place so you can prove your results. That's what I'm trying to say. And then the chief cause of failure and unhappiness is trading what we want in the moment for what you want most. So in the moment, you're not going to want to do some of this work. But you are trading what you want most, which is probably growing your business, having enough revenue so you feel safe and secure, and that you are wealth building while you're doing this business and not digging a hole like I did with my real estate business. And then the third and final is by my good friend Jen Baza, systems over discipline. Systems over discipline. That's why you need personal finance systems and platforms to help do some of the math. So it's really quick and you're not adding things up, but you know how to use those systems to create your money maps. So that's it.
Wonderful. I love that. I love the idea of creating systems instead of discipline. For the way my brain works, that definitely resonates strongly. So Leslie, thank you again for so much great information. StructuredSuccess.com is your website. We will have a secret link for people who want to come into your free sessions and tackle their money issues, whether it's their personal, professional, or a mix of both.
Yes.
And with that, thank you to everybody who's watching or listening to this episode. And I'll be back again with another amazing guest to share how we can make our lives a little bit better, tip and trick by tip and trick. Want more? Check out amplifywithannika.com or follow me on socials at amplifywithannika.